Hi class, today we'll be going over the drug 25I-NBOMe. So, the history of 25I-NBOMe. 25I-NBOMe is a phenethylamine and derivative of 2CI. 2CI was a drug that was synthesized by Alexander and his wife Anne Shogan. This was a pair of chemists that were famous during the late 90s and early 2000s because of their research on psychedelics. In this book called Recall, they actually researched and tried over 200 substances for medical purposes. They have a lot of work publicized online and offline, in the form of books and the form of documents and a lot of other stuff. We'll go into why this is important a little bit later. So, 2CI is different from 25I because by adding a methoxy moiety to 2CI, it will create 25I-NBOMe. Right here you can see the structures. On the left you see 2CI, and on the right you see 25I. See that they're very structurally similar. So, 25I was actually in 2003, and it was created to research and track the actions of other chemicals and other serotonin receptors in their brain during a PET scan. So during a PET scan, you'll be able to see the location of serotonin receptors where they're being fired off. The DEA schedule. 25I-NBOMe is a Schedule 1 controlled substance by a DEA. This has no medical purposes, and it can be easily abused by people. 25I-NBOMe in the streets. 25I-NBOMe was considered as an alternative to LSD for people. We'll go into why the effects of it are a little different. Unlike LSD, it's very possible to overdose on 25I-NBOMe, and this is actually how it came to America's attention. In 2013, an 18-year-old in Scottsdale, Arizona actually overdosed on 25I-NBOMe. 25I-NBOMe has some very deadly side effects, and we'll go into them in a bit. But this is one of the reasons why the drug became a lot less popular. Even though it was seen as an alternative to LSD, LSD is generally a lot more safer than this drug. This drug, like I said, has a lot of side effects that aren't accompanied with LSD, and we'll go into them in a bit. But first, how do people use this drug? So, like LSD, 25I-NBOMe is also used or ingested sublingually or orally through blotter paper art. So right here, this is usually what you see 25I-NBOMe sold as, and LSD. They look very similar. Although 25I-NBOMe also has different ways of ingestion. You could there's pill forms in the form of capsule pills or even pressed pills. There's this powder form right here that you could ingest intranasally. Ingesting 25I-NBOMe intranasally will actually boost the effects of the drug and will make the effects last even longer. These effects could last up to 12 hours. ADME. The three main routes of administration are orally, intranasally, and sublingually, as I mentioned before. 25I-NBOMe quickly distributes into the brain and circulates through the blood system. NBOMe gets metabolized by O-demethylation, O-bis demethylation, and hydroxylation. 25I-NBOMe roughly has a half-lifespan of 3.5 hours. So this means that almost within 7 hours, this drug will no longer be traceable in your body, and it will be fully digested. Mechanisms of action. 25I-NBOMe is an extremely potent agonist that binds to the 5-HT2A and alpha adrenergic receptors. A working theory suggests that 25I preferentially opens a pathway to the arachidonic acid PLA2-AA. Researchers currently have no information on 25I-NBOMe's functional selectivity. 25I-NBOMe has also been studied to show binding with the 5-HT2B and 5-HT2C receptors, acting as an agonist. So, why do people seek this drug? Like I said earlier, people seek this drug because it's commonly talked about as very similar to LSD. Similar to LSD, 25I-NBOMe can include hallucinations, and even create a sense of euphoria. Another effect that 25I-NBOMe and LSD have is the possibility of introspection. This is what most people seek in LSD sometimes. You hear about people wanting to be more connected to themselves or nature or other stuff. But the thing is that 25I-NBOMe actually has very little introspection effects on people, according to reports. So if this drug was wanted to be used for introspection purposes, it wouldn't be the right one. And we'll go into why LSD is a better alternative to this drug, or safer at least. So the negative effects of 25I-NBOMe. So the negative effects of 25I-NBOMe is that while other drugs might produce anxiety and confusion in a person, 25I-NBOMe specifically, those emotions are specifically examined during on patients during these observations, and it was their anxiety and confusion levels would rise. These people would basically seem out of it. And another important negative side effect that 25I-NBOMe causes is vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction is when the muscle cells close in and it slows blood flow. We'll go into this a little bit more. It also creates low blood pressure in people, which may be connected to possible seizures. We'll also go into that a bit later. Once again, people that have overdose on 25I are usually victims of seizures. So how does this affect our body? So as we've been talking about, seizures and low blood flow. While this drug is relatively safe, for your physical body, obviously, as we mentioned before, it could cause confusion, anxiety. It can harm you mentally, but physically, it's relatively safe. Besides the main point, which is which it can cause cerebral vasoconstriction. This is vasoconstriction happening in cerebral arteries, so in the brain. This makes it so the muscles tighten and your blood flow slows. And the slowing of blood flows to your cerebral arteries causes seizures. This is why seizures are so common in overdoses or even just regular doses in 25I-NBOMe. There's cases where people suffer from seizures, but they don't exactly overdose, but they do suffer from seizures. This is because of the high vasoconstriction rate in 25I-NBOMe. Some fun facts to know is I want to go back to why I said the creation of this book and the research of these two were famous. So Alexander's and Anne Shulgin, they publicized a lot of their work, and this made it so that people from all over the world could get info on psychedelics. So this led to the creation, or this led to people like taking their work and creating malicious intents. They will create their work literally had the blueprints to create these drugs. So people took these blueprints, they made it their own. They created 25I-NBOMe, and they started selling them on streets as alternatives to LSD or psychedelics. And I just thought that was very interesting. And there's even an interview with Alexander saying that he's very he regrets putting that information online because of the harm that it's done to people. Yeah, and that's NBOMe, a very dangerous drug that's somewhat similar to LSD, but doesn't really create the desired effects of LSD.